a lot of coaches in the NFL are being fired. Black Monday was earlier this week, and the list is growing. Mike McDaniel fired today here on January 8th. Jim Harbaugh was fired yesterday. Let's take a look at the list of coaches who have been fired and some open jobs in the NFL. So Brian Daboll was fired during the season. Brian Callahan was also fired during the season. Raheem Morris was fired by the Falcons after failing to make the playoffs each of the last 2 years. Kevin Stefanski mutually parted ways with the Browns, but it's pretty much a nice way just to fire the guy. Pete Carroll fired by the Raiders after just one season. That kind of surprised me a little bit. I felt like Pete Carroll would be able to turn this thing around, especially because they're getting the number 1 overall pick in the draft for next season, which will be held in Pittsburgh, by the way. Jonathan Gannon fired by the Arizona Cardinals. And then, of course, John Harbaugh fired. So I think what we want to talk about first is John Harbaugh. It's probably the highest profile firing we've had. This guy had a great career for the Ravens. 18 years, won a Super Bowl, went to the AFC title game 3 times in his first 5 seasons, and then went again to the AFC championship game a few years ago. Ended up losing, I believe, to the Chiefs. Crazy game on Sunday night. Hope you all had a chance to catch it. Steelers got a little bit lucky thanks to a Tyler Loop missed field goal from about 40-some-odd yards. I think it was 44 yards. And, the pressure was too much for that rookie kicker. They put all the pressure on him, and he couldn't come up big when they needed him to. So the Ravens are eliminated from playoff contention. The Steelers win the division, and the Steelers get to end the Ravens' season as well as end John Harbaugh, which is a pretty good feeling. Here's a quote from is this the owner or the GM? It's the owner, Steve Bisciotti. He said, "This was an incredibly difficult decision given the tremendous 18 years we have spent together and the profound respect I have for John as a coach, and most importantly, as a great man of integrity. Throughout what I firmly believe is a Hall of Fame coaching career, John has delivered a Super Bowl championship to Baltimore and served as a steadfast pillar of humility and leadership." So here's a little bit of background on John Harbaugh. He was the special teams and defensive backs coach for the Philadelphia Eagles prior to becoming the head coach with the Ravens. He had a really, really successful record with the Ravens. 193 wins, just 124 losses, including the postseason. They, of course, won the Super Bowl in 2012 in the infamous game where the lights shut out, and it delayed the game for about 30 minutes in the Super Bowl. Pretty crazy. And this season was only the 6th time that Baltimore has missed the playoffs under Harbaugh. So they made the playoffs 12 times out of 18 seasons. They also won 6 AFC North divisions under John Harbaugh. So an extremely successful career for John Harbaugh there in Baltimore, but it comes to an end. Now, this is citing an article from the Associated Press written by Noah Trister. And this was written yesterday, early in the morning. And he says, most of Baltimore's postseason success under Harbaugh came in his first few years. After beating his brother Jim, who was coaching the Niners in the Super Bowl, John Harbaugh was 9-4 in the playoffs. But for the rest of his tenure, he was just 4-7 in the playoffs. So through 2012, 9-4, and then from 2012 to 2026, 4-7 in the playoffs. After the Ravens went 3 straight seasons without a playoff berth, they drafted Lamar Jackson. The star quarterback won 2 MVPs in his first 6 years, but Harbaugh's lone run to an AFC championship game with Jackson was wasted 2 seasons ago when Baltimore lost at home to KC. And so this is what John Harbaugh said. I was hoping for a different kind of message on my last day here someday, but that day has come today. It comes with disappointment, certainly, but more with gratitude and appreciation. Gratitude to the owner and organization who was willing to bring in a head coach who made his mark with special team success. A difficult thing to do, and appreciation for all the moments, all these years that are etched into eternity. And so this year, the Ravens were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders. They were actually the favorite, the lone favorite by themselves to win the Super Bowl before the season began. And of course, a lot of things changed since then. Now, people, there's a lot of talk about how John Harbaugh has blown a lot of late leads, and that's undeniable. The Ravens have blown 10 double-digit leads in the second half in the past 6 seasons. No other team has done that more than 7 times. So the Ravens have the most blown double-digit leads in the second half by a pretty wide margin. And you got to wonder whose fault is that. The players change every year. But this is an ongoing theme. So, that's when you start looking at the coach. Baltimore started 1-5 this year after Lamar Jackson was sidelined due to a hamstring injury. They fought all the way back into contention and eventually reached a winner-take-all matchup against the Steelers for the AFC North. And Derrick Henry was amazing in that game against the Steelers. Was running all over Pittsburgh. They did not have an answer in the first half. The Steelers defense started playing a little bit better against Henry in the second half. Now, John Harbaugh is likely going to be the most sought-after candidate for a head coach in the entire NFL. So the question is, where's he going to go next year? And then also the question is, who's going to take over the Ravens job? Because that's probably the best available job. You're going to have Lamar Jackson at QB, and you've also got a very stable organization. So it's going to be a sought-after job there in Baltimore. A lot of people are going to want that job. So what do I think? Well, unfortunately, this had to happen. This guy, we've gone over all the success that he's had in the 18 years that he's been there. A lot of accolades, a Super Bowl championship, 6 division titles, 193 wins, a lot less losses. I think only 124 losses. They only missed the playoffs 6 times out of 18 years. So that means they make the playoffs 2 out of 3. Or they've got a chance to make the playoffs, I guess, 67% if you look at it just based off that. And so, you look at based off of results from the past, few years, and you look at just the numbers, he's a great head coach, and you question why they would fire him. But then you got to take in all of the context to account. The Ravens were the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. This has been an ongoing theme for a while now. We're in 2026. Lamar came into the league, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I think it was 2019 is when he first came in. So the Ravens, or maybe it was 2018. It was one of those years. I think it actually was 2018. Yeah, it was 2018. Sorry about that. So he came into the league in 2018. So he's had 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026. He's had all those years to win a Super Bowl or get to the Super Bowl. They only made it to one AFC championship game, and they lost in a lot of big games in the playoffs. That was always a knock on John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson over the last few years. So that would be one of the main reasons, is that the lack of postseason success frustrated Baltimore fans and probably the ownership and the management. And when it keeps happening over and over again, unfortunately, the blame is going to fall on the head coach. You can't blame Lamar Jackson. He's too talented. He's 28 years old in his prime, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league and a two-time MVP. So you're not going to get rid of him. That would be psychotic. You have to blame someone. And unfortunately, when you continue to underdeliver, when you continuously fail to live up to the expectations, it is what it is. John Harbaugh needed to go. And so I do believe that this was the right move for them. Very interesting situation, because it felt like whoever lost that game on Sunday night was going to fire their head coach. You know, if the Steelers lost that game, if Tyler Loop makes that field goal, I think Mike Tomlin is gone. Now, the Steelers organization is a lot different than Baltimore. We've only had 3 head coaches in the entirety of our history. We don't fire head coaches. I don't think the Steelers have ever fired a head coach. So the Steelers historically don't fire head coaches, but things are getting really bad in Pittsburgh. Now, we got lucky, okay? We got lucky a guy missed a field goal. And now we got a chance to potentially win a home playoff game. So, interesting stuff. Overall, I agree with the move by the Ravens. I think it was a good move. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you think the Ravens should have fired John Harbaugh? Now, who are they going to bring in as their new head coach? That's another big question that needs to be answered. Let me know who you think it's going to be. And let me know if you think it was the right decision to replace a head coach that was extremely successful. So, yeah, gonna call it right there. All right, guys. See you next time.